It is now 7 p.m.
6:59 still says up there.
Okay.
But I have 7 p.m. You can start.
But can I, if it says it up there?
Yes, it says it up there.
All right. Good evening, everybody. A meeting of the Human Affairs Committee is being convened at today, Monday, September 19th at 7 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Alderwoman at Large, Shoshana Kelly. Here. Alderwoman Patricia Clegg, Clerk, here. Alderman at Large, Melbourne Moran Jr.
Present.
Alderwoman at Large, Gloria Timmons.
Here.
Alderman Thomas Lopez.
I am here.
Mr. Chairman, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
All right.
and we have quorum.
Also in attendance?
Also in attendance is Mr. Julian Long, Urban Programs Manager.
All right. So I don't see any members of the public in attendance, but if anybody would like to present themselves, then we will now take public comment. Seeing none. Madam Clerk, we have some communications.
Yes. Communications from Julian Long, Urban Programs Manager. RE Urban Programs Department updates August 2022.
Mr. Long, do you want to speak to that now, or do you want to wait until we are actually in the meeting, like looking at the ordinance it refers to?
The purpose of the
Okay.
Yeah. Did you just want to accept the?
Okay, so then there being no objection, we can accept that and place it on file.
Okay.
Unfinished business?
None?
New business resolutions?
Yes, we have R22-059, amending the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Annual Action Plan for fiscal year 2022 relative to the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG.
Does not sound new, but the amendment might. Mr. Long, is that what you would like to come up to present for? Give us some information about the
Do we
amendment.
need to make a motion first?
Oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Kelly.
I'd like to move to recommend final passage.
Yep, sorry. You can take a seat if you want. Might be more comfortable. Mr. Long, if you want to give us a general overview of what we're doing?
Certainly, yes. So both of these park projects were approved in prior CDBG action plans. And this comes at the request of the Department of Public Works to transfer the funds entirely to the Sandy Pond Park project, which will be installing a new fishing pier.
Can you clarify where it was being transferred from?
Yes, the Levine Park project is where those funds are coming from. And I'm afraid I don't recall the exact nature of that project offhand, but.
Okay. But Public Works has requested it. They're in the middle of doing a fishing pier project. Any questions from the members of the committee? Okay. Just for the sake of thoroughness, if we could get an explanation of the project that it was part of, just as a comment sent to the Board of Aldermen, just in case somebody asks any questions. So then, without objection, are we ready to vote?
Looks like it.
Okay.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those against, nay? None.
All right.
We have 5 ayes and 0 nays.
So R2259 is recommended for final passage. I see R22060.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have R22060, accepting funds and adopting an allocation plan for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Home Investment Partnerships program funds received through the American Rescue Plan Act.
So we have been asked to table this, but we'll need a motion, and then it might be a good idea to have an introduction of what this is, because once you move to table, it's not debatable. So Alderman Kelly?
I'll move to recommend final passage.
Nope.
Well, he wants to talk about it first, so we have to recommend
No, we
final
can't,
passage.
oh, no, that's right.
Because
You
you
have to
can't.
put it-
Right, I
debate
apologize.
table.
I apologize. I'll put that in here.
All right, so Alderman Kelly has properly made a motion for final passage. Mr. Long, if you want to give us a quick summary.
Yes, so Through the American Rescue Plan Act, the city of Nashua has received about $1.6 million in funds for our home program. And that is the program that handles affordable housing development. Unlike the regular home program, the ARP funds are specifically for developing housing for specific qualifying populations. Those 4 populations are homeless residents, those at risk of homelessness, those who are fleeing sexual or domestic violence, and those at the greatest risk of housing instability. Before we can begin allocating the funds to specific projects, we have to adopt an allocation plan. And that is the plan that has been brought before the Board of Aldermen and now before the committee. We are planning to have a public hearing at the October committee meeting and a public comments period that should begin running next Monday for a period of 30 days.
So the public comment, how would the public access that?
That is posted on the Urban Programs website under News and Announcements.
Okay.
And we're happy to accept comments however is most convenient for residents, whether that's phone call, email, postal mail, whatever works best for folks.
Okay, and I can see if it's possible for the transcriptionist to stick the link into the agenda or into the minutes for this meeting. If not right here, then maybe she can at least put it in as an attachment. That way it's easier for people to follow. I think there's going to be a lot of interest in that, especially as the weather gets colder and, you know, how we're helping people and what we're doing. And I know your department definitely wants to get solid feedback so that they feel like they're making the best choices to help our community.
Absolutely, we do. And right now, the bulk of the funds has been allocated towards affordable housing developments. That's the biggest need. There's a few other categories in administrative expenses, also supportive services. The nonprofits that provide affordable housing also provide case management, which can be useful for certain of those qualifying populations.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, in the draft plan, the bulk is set aside for affordable housing development.
Just as a caveat though, when we say affordable housing, like the Housing Trust Fund took the word affordable off of it because it's not strictly speaking just focused on that. And the HUD definition of affordable does go pretty high, like single incomes up to 80,000. So is there a definition of affordable being applied to this? Is it specifically people who are low income, workforce?
So in general, when you're talking about housing and urban development, you're looking at 80% of the area median income. And that is also broken down by family size. So for a family of 4 for Nashua, I believe it's about 122,000, somewhere in that ballpark. And however, the home ARP funds are unique in that because it has to be for qualifying populations, most of those populations, they're going to be at lower income levels. Certainly, homeless residents, you're going to be looking at far below 80%. For those at risk of homelessness, very likely far below 30%, far below 80%.
Okay. And that's more probably something that the Housing Committee would be looking at?
So
Actual application, or?
certainly we should take a look at whether we can combine funding sources with the Housing Trust Fund. But it does exist separately from the Housing Trust Fund.
Okay, so they aren't the same thing.
They're not the same thing.
Okay, well, thanks for cleaning that up for me.
Of course.
And then just for the record, our next meeting should be the second Tuesday, if I remember right. Is this the second Tuesday or the third Tuesday?
Right now, this is the 3rd Tuesday.
Okay.
Oh, that's right.
So it'll be
that
the
would
the 17th. That's what I have. October 17th.
Okay, so we anticipate our next meeting being October 17th for the hearing? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Do any other committee members have questions?
Yes.
Alderman Moran?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So when it comes to these projects, are anything going to be involved with public housing? Anything that really nails the lower income side? On top of that, is there a way to prioritize people earning, families of 4 earning less than $122,000? I don't know if it's like a first come, first served that these agencies will set up or anything like that, but if there is like a sliding scale on how they determine, how they allocate, is it weighted differently? Sorry.
No. Yeah, so it's a very unique program, and then it's really focused on those 4 qualifying populations. And they're not by definition income-based. But given the nature of them, you're talking about lower income. You're not talking about that 80%, you're talking more around 30% of the area median income. When you're talking about homeless, especially
Right.
chronically homeless residents, when you're talking about those who are at greatest risk of housing instability, for that, you may be looking at about 50% of area median income. And we do have the ability, if we want to specify in the plan whether we have preferences. And as far as I'm aware, we could put income preferences in there as well.
That'd be wonderful. Follow-up?
Yeah.
Can any of these funds be directed to rental subsidies?
Yes, tenant-based rental assistance is an eligible category of funding for the home ARP funds.
I have no idea how to do this, but my input probably at whatever vehicle you have for collecting it is it's challenging for some people in different ways than others. For example, single individuals who are coming out of homelessness or facing homelessness, they generally, a little bit of prevention is worth a pound of rehabilitation. If we can keep them from entering homelessness, then that usually pays off more than having to help them recover all of their stuff from wherever it was stored and reconnect all of their employment and all that kind of stuff. So those particular needs end up being on an individual basis. When it comes to families though, one of the things that I've been seeing very regularly is families that need 3 bedrooms or 4 bedroom apartments need to be really nimble, because when one becomes available, they have to have that one. Otherwise they're getting split, they're getting sent in different directions. You're adding those complexities and layers. So I'm not exactly sure how this particular money would be able to specifically ameliorate that, but that would be my thought, is probably it's not going to be one specific strategy works for the whole population. Don't put all the money into one single effort, but really look at what's happening in the community and figure out how we can move some of the larger populations that are presenting themselves while recognizing the ones that may be larger just because they've been homeless longer. I know families generally experience homelessness longer contiguously because we don't have shelter space for them and because we don't have larger scopes of apartments.
No, certainly, and there are several categories of funding that will give us quite a bit of flexibility, I think, in terms of different projects aimed at meeting different needs. Currently, the tenant-based rental assistance is not funded under that, so I will be adjusting some of our funding numbers and presenting the draft at the October meeting that is revised based on the comments from the committee members tonight.
I will definitely be looking forward to that. Alderman Kelly?
Yes, so I know that multiple programs that you operate and, Carrie did before, have a lot of strings to them. This one sounds like it's under ARPA, so does that make it a little bit more accessible to people in terms of being able to take advantage of the funds?
A lot of the home program rules and regulations still apply. So I'm gonna say unfortunately not really. But any additional money is good, but I imagine probably folks who are already familiar with how the whole program works are going to be the primary applicants, is what I would foresee.
If I could follow up.
Yep.
Thank you, I appreciate that clarification, because I know that there's a lot of different tools you have, but sometimes it's harder and has more strings attached depending on what program you put people in. So there was mention of putting this together with the Housing Trust Fund. My concern there would be that the Housing Trust Fund is run by the city and can be a little bit more nimble in terms of how we put together partnerships. What I heard from you just now is that there might be too many attachments to this money to try to put the two together.
I think a lot of it will be project by project, which is an unsatisfying answer. A rough rule is, in my experience, is there already federal money in the project? Because if there is, you might as well put more federal money. Most of the rules and regulations are similar across programs, so you're not really putting on more restrictions. But if it's the only source of federal money, then you want to take a much harder look to see, is it worth those funds compared to, all the trade-offs?
Great. Actually, can I have one more follow-up?
Yep.
So I just want to make sure I'm completely clear because ARPA gets a little bit confusing. Is this one-time funds or is this something we get every year, but we're getting supplemental because of ARPA?
This is something we're getting supplemental due to ARPA. This is separate from our annual home allocation.
Yeah, okay, great.
But it is a one-time, not a recurring.
It is one time, that's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
So it could be a shot in the arm for somebody who needs it, needs more of what they have, or it could be a boost for somebody who's trying to get something up and running. Mr. Long, is that correct, or am I?
Great, thank you.
Okay. Alderman Clee?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's not relative to the same questions that everyone else has been asking, but more relative to the comments that you will be getting throughout this 30-day period until we have the actual public hearing. Is it possible for this body, or actually the Board of Aldermen, to see those comments? I'd be very curious as to what other people are suggesting and so on. Do you feel the same, Mr. Chairman?
100%, because if my constituents are telling me one thing and then the data shows another, I kind of know how that happens.
Yeah, if that's possible for us to get it before the 17th.
No, absolutely.
Thank you very much,
Of
appreciate
course.
it.
Alderman Moran?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I guess one of the caveats is that this money won't be recurring, and it's limited, obviously. And what are the chances that any of these programs that get created or suggested become sustainable? And if not sustainable, would there be something built in to the funding mechanism that says, you know, a transition period or something to make it less harmful when the money's gone?
Well, certainly, the limits of the program will be very clearly communicated to any potential applicants, so they're aware this is a one-time funding allocation, so there's no confusion on that point. One of the things we'll be doing, and it's written into the allocation plan, is financial and organizational capacity of applicants will be a criteria of evaluation when we're reviewing applications after we've adopted the plan and we're at that stage. And one other funding category that's allowable is nonprofit capacity building. And that's something we might want to consider funding as well to hopefully, you know, not shore up some of the existing agencies doing this work, but also possibly bring others into, you know,
The
support them in developing that capacity.
That's great. A statement.
Mm-hmm.
This must be one of the worst committees you come to discuss these things. You got 2 social workers and 3 very well educated social service advocates on the board. So good job with all these questions.
Oh, thank you.
I know off the top of my head, I can think of, like, there's a rescue mission opening on French Hill. There's a number of expansions to domestic violence support services that have been kind of propped up in the worst of times during the pandemic and could probably use expansions. We know pretty famously the soup kitchen is going through a large-scale expansion. And then there's programs like Stepping Stones that are trying to do targeted things like creating youth transitional housing processes. So I would imagine any of those entities would probably be interested in a boost to kind of get them up to the level where, okay, well, now we have enough people in the room. When the Mayor's Advisory Committee looks at resources that he's going to be allocating, they typically take into account, I guess it could be bluntly summarized as, are we the ones who need to do this? If you have a nonprofit organization that has a built-in revenue structure, like they charge fee for services or they bill insurance or that kind of stuff, they can't necessarily be looked at with the same lens as the organization that, like, has to have a golf tournament or whatever, or they lose a staff member. But then additionally, when you're looking at, are we the ones that is the city the best way or the only option that they have, the other criteria to look at is, does this benefit specifically the city, or does this go towards a program that is able to present a lot of high quality programming and connections and all that stuff, because maybe they're more of like a larger national affiliate than something that's homegrown, was born out of the needs of this community, and that are like, there's no intermediaries between how they function and what the needs are in our community. So I'm sure you'll take all of that into account. Like I said, I'm glad we're having this conversation and that we're going to have that opportunity for the public to weigh in on the urban programs page. I think it would probably be a good idea for any committee members to try to help with dissemination. So if you could point us, share with us the correct link, and then we could share it with our respective constituents. It
That would be very
probably
much
helpful, because
appreciated.
if we all just try to find it, it'll be a bunch of people playing pinball, ending up in the wrong areas. So if there's no further discussion, Alderman Kelly?
I move the table?
You have to amend your first.
I don't have to amend it.
I don't think she does.
No.
Didn't she recommend a motion for final passage? She doesn't have to amend that?
No, she can table that motion.
I thought you had to recommend it,
Well,
because we have an actual.
No, you can put it on the table.
No,
Because
she
that's the
put on, I
prevailing
just said amend her motion for final passage to table.
No, I think table
Okay.
is a separate motion, and it's non-debatable anyway, so.
No, I'm just saying is that I thought we had a motion out there.
Nope,
For
this will
final
be,
passage.
we have a motion for final passage, and we discussed the issue, but she's moving to table it.
Okay.
Do you want to put it right around there pending our next meeting, or?
That's what it
pending-
says.
Pending the public hearing on October 17th.
Okay,
Yeah.
just in case something happens. All right, so the motion is to table pending the hearing on October 17th. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so we will table that.
Definitely.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Long.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, any new business?
None?
Any table, okay, well, we're gonna skip that because this doesn't
We
count.
just,
Tabled committee.
there is
General
something in committee,
discussion.
but we're not.
They're currently up beyond this, none tabled in committee, but general discussion.
All right, so seeing no general discussion, which as chair, I will remind people, general discussion is back and forth. Let's introduce a topic and talk about it. Aldermanic comments are, you've made your comment, I'll make my comment, and then that's long. Let's open it up to public comment. Any members of the public wishing to make comment? Mr. Long?
I was able to look up the Levine Park project. It was bathrooms
Oh, okay. Bathrooms for where?
for the park. I don't know the exact location.
Oh, okay, so we're not talking about the same park. We are talking about the same park. We're switching a fisherman pier for bathrooms.
Yes,
Okay, fair enough.
and different parks,
All right. Thanks for that clarification.
of course.
Seeing no further public comment, remarks by the alderman. Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a big day for the city of Nashua. I'm going to talk about this more tomorrow at Planning and Economic Development. But the Halua has officially reopened.
Yes.
Oh my,
I'm just wondering.
the most asked question on,
And I know-
anybody know what's happening with.
I know Director Cummings has probably been working very hard on that one, and I'm sure we'll point it out tomorrow night's meeting. If you want some great Chinese food, head up to Exit 6.
Okay, I missed what officially opened?
The Halua has reopened after almost 3 years being
Oh.
closed. The Halua Chinese restaurant.
Exit 6,
What's the name of it?
Halua.
You gotta check it out.
That one, okay.
Yeah, no, if you go there, you'll be like, oh, yes, that's
Oh,
one.
yeah.
The two have been.
Okay.
It's been the running.
It's a great day for Nashua.
Yeah, fine. Any other comments? All right, I'm making my final comment then. I would like to congratulate Alderman Timmons on her hard work on the Cultural Connections Committee. They had a great cultural festival. We also had a great festival in Alderman Clee's ward for the Egyptian Festival. Technically,
Yeah.
they both are.
Delicious
So,
food. Yeah, they both were in my board.
some great activities this past weekend, and hopefully more to come. Can I get a motion from anybody? Alderman Clee, or Kelly?
Alderman Kelly, yeah.
Move to adjourn.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Nay. We are adjourned.
At 7:20.